The desert was silent after chaos. Smoke curled in the night sky, drifting over dunes blackened with blood and fire. The wind howled low, carrying the stench of death. Dozens of bodies, human and beast alike, lay scattered across the sand. Soldiers sat slumped, shaking, staring blankly at the battlefield where monsters had just fallen. And in the middle of that silence stood Omar. The man was broken in every sense. His chest heaved, his ribs cracked, his skin torn and bleeding from countless wounds. Sweat poured from him like rain. But in his hands, there burned something new, something ancient, something alive, the spear. It was not like any weapon forged by men. Its shaft was stone, carved with glowing hieroglyphs that shifted like fire when he moved. Its weight was immense, and yet it responded to his grip as if waiting centuries for his hand. Its tip blazed gold, searing against the night sky. He could feel it humming with the heartbeat of the pyramid itself. The guardian was gone, reduced to broken rubble across the dunes. The giant of stone had fallen, its light dimmed forever. But before death, it had passed on its strength, its trust, its will, into Omar's hands. And now the desert trembled at that transfer. The soldiers whispered, their voices hoarse from fear and awe. By God, he's still standing. He carries the weapon. Is it even possible? He fights like no man. A few dropped to their knees, clutching their rifles like prayer beads, tears streaking their dust-caked faces. Others stared at him with the eyes of men seeing a miracle in flesh. Omar didn't speak. He couldn't. His throat was dry, his lungs raw from screaming. All he did was hold the spear higher. And when he raised it, the desert lit brighter. For the first time in millennia, man held the weapon of the ancients. But the silence didn't last. From the shadow of the dunes came a sound, a low, guttural growl. A sound too deep for any beast of earth. The ground shook with each step. Sand shifted as something massive stirred. The soldiers froze. Their gazes snapped toward the darkness. Fear gripped their hearts anew. And then it appeared. The largest wolf titan. Its body towered like a moving mountain of fur and flesh, scarred from earlier battle, yet still filled with monstrous power. Its fur was matted with blood, its chest rising and falling with labored but furious breaths. Its red eyes burned hotter than fire, locked solely on Omar. It opened its jaws, revealing fangs like spears, each dripping blood and saliva. Its roar shook the night sky, rattling rifles in trembling hands. The battle was not finished. Omar stepped forward. His body screamed in protest, muscles tearing, wounds splitting. He tasted iron on his tongue, felt pain tearing at every fiber of him. But he refused to kneel. The spear pulsed in his grip. He could feel it, alive, burning, demanding he rise. He planted his feet in the sand, squared his shoulders, and raised the weapon again. Behind him, the soldiers stirred. They saw him standing, unbroken, weapon blazing like a second sun. And though their legs trembled, though fear clawed at their guts, they found their voices. Omar! 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 The chant spread like fire across the dunes. Broken men rose. Beaten soldiers lifted their rifles again. Tears burned in their eyes, but hope burned brighter. In that moment, it wasn't the pyramid, nor the guardian, nor any ancient force that held them together. It was him, one man, a bodybuilder from Egypt, flesh against fury. The Titan moved first. It roared and charged, its paws slamming into the sand with earthquakes in every step. Its eyes glowed like hellfire, its claws carving furrows into the earth. It was rage made flesh, hatred made form. Omar's heart pounded like a war drum. The spear grew heavier in his hands, almost unbearable, but he did not falter. His body shifted into the stance of a fighter, legs bent, chest forward, weapon raised. The desert seemed to hold its breath. And then they collided. The Titan's claw swept down like a falling tree. Omar raised the spear, bracing with both hands. The impact cracked the ground beneath him, sending waves of sand outward. His arms screamed with pain, but the spear held. Golden sparks exploded where claw met stone. He twisted, driving the spear upward. The blade sliced across the beast's leg, tearing deep. Black blood sprayed, sizzling in the sand. The Titan roared, staggering, then slammed its paw into the ground. The shockwave hurled Omar back. He rolled across the sand, his ribs screaming, but still clutched the weapon tight. He forced himself to his feet, gasping, chest heaving. The soldiers shouted, voices raw with desperation. "Stand, Omar! Stand!" He did. He charged forward. The Titan lunged with jaws wide. Omar ducked under, rolling across the sand, then leapt onto its foreleg. His muscles burned, tendons straining, but he climbed. He hauled himself upward, dragging the spear with him, each motion fueled not by strength alone, but by fury. The Titan snarled, shaking its leg to throw him off. Omar roared back, stabbing the spear deep into its hide, anchoring himself. The beast howled in pain. Its red eyes burned hotter. It snapped its massive head downward, fangs clashing inches away. Omar yanked the spear free and drove it into the Titan's face, golden sparks exploding across its muzzle. The monster recoiled, shrieking. Omar clung to its fur, hauling himself higher, climbing its massive chest toward its throat. Blood poured from fresh wounds. His hands slipped on the hot, wet fur, but still he climbed. Behind him, soldiers screamed encouragement, their voices ragged but rising. Climb, climb, end it. Finally, Omar reached the Titan's chest. He planted his feet, spear raised. His body swayed, nearly collapsing under exhaustion. The Titan's eyes locked on him, blazing with hatred. Omar roared, every vein in his neck bulging, and drove the spear into the monster's chest. The world exploded. Golden fire burst outward, tearing through the Titan's body, lighting up the night. The beast screamed, thrashing violently. Omar held on, forcing the spear deeper, muscles tearing under strain. The fire spread across the Titan's chest, veins of gold splitting its flesh, glowing brighter and brighter. The soldiers fell to their knees, shielding their eyes from the blinding light. The monster howled one last time, then collapsed into the sand, trembling earth shaking dunes for miles. Dust and fire rose into the air, and Omar still stood. But it wasn't over. The pyramid shook again. The beam of golden light from its peak widened, growing thicker, brighter, as if the very heavens were opening. Hieroglyphs blazed across its entire face, symbols none alive had seen. The air grew heavy. The desert wind howled louder. The sand itself began to move, swirling in unnatural patterns. And beneath the dunes, something stirred. Something greater than even the Titans. Omar collapsed to one knee, gasping, his body broken, spear still clutched tight. His eyes rose toward the pyramid, blazing light reflecting in them. He knew. The war had only begun. The battlefield was not quiet for long. The massive Titan Omar had speared into the sand was not finished. Its chest glowed faintly with golden cracks, black blood oozing around them, but its heart still pounded. With a violent jolt, it rolled sideways, throwing up waves of sand. The roar that followed made the desert quake. Soldiers stumbled, terror flashing across their faces again. They had thought it was over, thought they had seen the impossible man slay the impossible beast. And yet, the nightmare stood again. The Titan's red eyes blazed brighter than before. It was wounded. It was enraged. And it would not fall so easily. Omar staggered to his feet, spear still in hand. His body screamed at him to collapse. His arms shook, veins bulging with exhaustion. Every breath tore his ribs apart. Yet when the beast rose again, his heart refused to surrender. He tightened his grip on the weapon. It pulsed in his hands, glowing with golden fire, as if feeding on his resolve. He stared at the Titan, blood dripping from his lips, and whispered hoarsely, "Not while I still stand." The Titan lunged, faster than before. Its claws swept low across the sand, a strike that could have flattened a tank. Omar braced, slammed the spear against the ground, and angled its tip upward. The golden weapon clashed against black fur and bone with a deafening crack. Sparks exploded, searing light burning into the night. The impact threw Omar backward. He rolled, sand filling his wounds, agony flooding his nerves. But he forced himself up, staggering, spitting blood, still holding the spear. The soldiers roared from behind him. "Omar, fight!" The Titan snarled, its massive body twisting. It slammed its paw down again, aiming to crush Omar into the dunes. At the last second, Omar dove forward, rolling under the strike, then drove the spear into the beast's leg. The blade pierced through muscle and tendon. Black blood erupted like a geyser. The Titan howled, collapsing to one knee. Omar pulled the weapon free and struck again, stabbing into its shoulder, each thrust tearing through flesh with explosions of golden fire. His body screamed with every motion, but rage carried him further. The Titan retaliated, snapping its jaws at him. Omar leapt backward just as the beast's teeth clamped shut, the sound echoing like steel gate slamming. He barely escaped. But even in escape, he did not retreat. He attacked again. This was no longer a battle of size. It was will against will. The Titan fought with blind fury, every strike intending to annihilate. Omar fought with broken flesh, but his resolve burned hotter than the desert sun. Each time he fell, he rose again. Each time he bled, he struck harder. The soldiers wept as they watched. Some beat their fists against the sand, shouting his name. Others dropped to their knees, begging God to grant him strength. They could do nothing but witness a man fight a god. And for the first time, they believed man could win. The Titan staggered back, its chest heaving, wounds glowing gold. It roared, shaking dunes for miles. Omar stood, barely able to breathe, spear raised once more. Their eyes met. For a single moment, there was no army, no desert, no pyramid. Only two forces locked in defiance. One, a monster born from darkness. The other, a man who refused to kneel. The Titan lunged again. Omar charged forward to meet it. The collision was like thunder. Omar drove the spear upward, with every shred of strength left in his body. The golden blade pierced through the Titan's jaw, slicing into its mouth. Light burst outward, tearing its throat with fire. The monster shrieked, shaking its head violently, trying to dislodge him. But Omar held on. His muscles tore, his bones cracked, but his grip did not falter. He roared through the blood in his mouth, forcing the spear deeper, deeper, until golden light burst through the Titan's neck. The beast staggered, choking, its howl broken and desperate. Black blood sprayed the desert, mixing with fire. And still, it did not fall. The pyramid behind them trembled again. Its golden beam shot higher, piercing the heavens, wider now, brighter, as if announcing to the universe itself that the old world was awake. Hieroglyphs flared across its stone, dancing, shifting, telling stories no living soul could read. The Titan glanced at it, a flicker of hesitation in its monstrous eyes. Omar saw it, and he understood. The pyramid wasn't just awake. It was calling. Something greater was coming. And this Titan, the last wolf Titan, wasn't just fighting Omar. It was trying to stop what came next. Omar spat blood, his chest heaving, eyes blazing with defiance. He pulled the spear free, golden sparks scattering into the night. The Titan growled, staggering, its body trembling but unbroken. They both knew this fight wasn't over. Not until one of them was nothing but dust. The desert had never known such madness. Sand still rained from the heavens, black blood boiled on the dunes, and the giant wolf's roar shook the marrow of every soldier left alive. Omar stood, spear in hand, blood dripping from his arms, his chest heaving like a furnace ready to explode. His ribs were cracked, his shoulder half torn, but the fire in his eyes refused to dim. Across from him, the wolf Titan swayed on its monstrous legs. Golden cracks blazed across its fur where the spear had torn through. Yet it endured. Its massive lungs rattled, each breath like thunder rolling across the Nile's ancient sands. The soldiers behind Omar were caught between terror and awe. They had seen tanks crumble before these beasts. Jets swatted from the skies like flies. And yet one man still stood, still defied the impossible. It was not just a fight anymore. It was defiance itself. But then the ground shifted. A vibration deeper than any Titan's roar rumbled through the desert. The soldiers staggered, Omar turned, and even the wolf Titan froze, its ears twitching. The Great Pyramid of Giza was alive. Its ancient stones glowed with rivers of gold, as though veins of fire ran through its body. Hieroglyphs lit across its surface, patterns no scholar alive could have translated, moving, shifting, alive. And then from its tip erupted a beam of golden light so pure, so violent, it split the heavens open. The night sky blazed like day. Clouds burned away. Stars vanished. For miles, the desert was bathed in holy fire. The soldiers fell to their knees, some crying, some praying. Even those who had lost faith found their lips trembling with words of worship. Omar squinted into the light, his jaw clenched, his heart pounding. He felt the spear vibrating, answering the call of the pyramid. And for the first time, he realized the weapon was never truly his. He was its vessel, its flesh. The wolf titan bellowed, staggering backward. Its red eyes darted from the man with the spear to the pyramid itself. For a creature born of destruction, it was the first true sign of fear. It didn't want the pyramid awake. It wanted it silenced. The titan roared and charged, not at Omar, but at the pyramid. The soldiers screamed. Their bullets tore through the night, a rain of fire aimed at the monster's flanks. The titan ignored them, sprinting through the dunes like a hurricane, every step flattening the desert. Omar's heart nearly stopped. He saw it clearly. If the titan reached the pyramid, if it shattered that beam, humanity's only hope would die with it. He had seconds. He had no strength left. But he had no choice. Omar! Stop it, the soldiers cried, voices hoarse, desperate. He didn't answer. He just ran. Every muscle in his body screamed. His legs burned with fire. His chest felt like it was caving in. Blood trailed behind him with every step. But he pushed harder, harder, as though his soul was dragging his body forward. The titan's massive claw lifted, shadow swallowing the base of the pyramid. And in that instant, Omar leapt. The spear blazed gold, fire bursting from its tip. His body arced through the night like a comet, golden light trailing behind him. He slammed into the titan's arm mid-swing, driving the weapon deep into its flesh. The impact exploded like a thunderclap. Golden fire tore through the titan's muscles, burning its claw to ash before it could touch the pyramid. The beast howled, staggering sideways, slamming into the sand. Its body writhed in pain, golden cracks crawling up its arm, spreading through its chest. Omar landed hard, rolling across the sand, coughing blood. His body was nearly finished. But he had stopped it. The pyramid still burned. The light still roared into the heavens. The soldiers cheered, their voices breaking. Some screamed his name. Others sobbed, pounding their rifles against the dunes in wild celebration. But Omar didn't celebrate. He looked up at the titan, still writhing, still alive. The fire hadn't been enough. The titan's growls turned into laughter, twisted, rumbling, a sound no beast should have made. Its glowing red eyes locked onto Omar, burning with hatred. And then it did something none expected. It howled. A sound so deep, so monstrous, it didn't just shake the desert, it shook the sky. The soldiers froze. Omar's eyes widened. The dunes trembled. Cracks ripped open the sand. From the darkness beneath the desert, something answered the howl. Something old. Something massive. The soldiers' cheers died instantly. The battlefield fell silent except for the echo of that unholy call. Omar staggered to his feet, spear trembling in his grip. His body felt smaller than ever against that roar, against the dread that followed it. The pyramid's light blazed even brighter, as if fighting back. But the wolf titan's eyes glowed, and its laughter turned into another roar of defiance. This battle was no longer just man against beast. It was the awakening of something the world had not seen for millennia. And Omar, broken, bloodied, alone, was standing in its center. The silence after the howl was worse than the roar itself. Every soldier knew, instinctively, they had not faced the true nightmare yet. The wolf titan's cry was a summons, and the desert had answered. The sands trembled. Waves of dunes rippled outward like an ocean struck by a storm. Cracks split open in the earth, glowing faintly with unnatural fire. From the depths came groans, ancient and heavy, like the desert itself was breathing after thousands of years. The soldiers panicked. Some fired blindly into the shifting dunes. Others prayed, their voices trembling, eyes locked on Omar as if he alone held their salvation. Omar gripped the spear tighter. His hands bled around its golden haft, his knuckles white, his chest heaving. He didn't know what was coming. He only knew he couldn't allow it to rise. Not while he still lived. The wolf titan stood tall again, though its body burned with golden wounds. Its chest heaved, blood dripping freely, yet its eyes gleamed with savage triumph. It wanted this. It had called for this. And then the desert broke open. From the abyss beneath the dunes rose another shape. Enormous, ancient. Bone and sand fused together, forming a creature unlike anything Omar had seen. It wasn't flesh like the wolf titan. It was fossil and spirit, as though the desert had given birth to its own beast. A skeletal wolf, its bones wrapped in dunes, its eyes glowing with blue fire. The soldiers screamed. Some dropped their rifles entirely. For them, this was the end. For Omar, it was just the next fight. He staggered forward, his voice hoarse but thunderous. No more. The golden spear flared, answering his rage. Light burst outward, wrapping his body, making his broken form glow like a burning star. Every vein in his arms felt like fire, but the power of the weapon refused to let him collapse. He charged, straight toward the impossible. The wolf titan saw him coming. It lunged, claws swinging like a falling mountain. Omar didn't dodge this time. He met the blow head-on, driving the spear into the beast's wrist. The impact split the desert. Golden fire exploded across the titan's arm, ripping muscle apart. Its howl turned to agony, but Omar was already moving. He spun, pulling the weapon free, and hurled himself at the skeletal beast that had just risen. Its jaw opened, blue fire spilling out like a storm. Omar roared back, leaping into its mouth. The soldiers shouted his name as the light engulfed him. Inside the creature's skull, Omar drove the spear downward. Golden light clashed with blue fire. The explosion was blinding. Bone shattered, dunes collapsed inward, and the skeletal wolf's head cracked apart like glass under a hammer. The beast stumbled, shaking the ground. Omar burst out through its eye socket, drenched in sand and fire, landing in the desert with the spear blazing brighter than ever. The soldiers erupted in disbelief. He broke it. He broke a titan. But Omar didn't celebrate. His eyes locked back on the original wolf titan, still standing, still snarling, its fury only growing. This was never about numbers. It was about breaking his will, and Omar's will refused. The pyramid's beam pulsed again, brighter, wider, bathing the battlefield in holy fire. Hieroglyphs glowed across the desert itself, etching themselves into the sand, forming shapes that looked like warriors, gods, pharaohs watching from another world. The soldiers dropped to their knees, tears streaming, voices chanting Omar's name, now not as a man, but as something greater. Omar, Omar, Omar. The wolf titan roared back and raged at the defiance. It lunged again, claws tearing through dunes, aiming to finish what it started. Omar charged to meet it, his spear blazing like the sun. The battlefield became light and shadow colliding, man against monster, hope against extinction. Every clash shook the earth. Every strike left fire in the sand. Every roar tore the sky apart. Omar bled. His body failed him with every step. Yet the pyramid's light fed him, pushing him beyond human limits. He was no longer just a soldier, no longer just a man. He was the answer humanity gave to monsters. The wolf titan staggered at last, its massive frame cracking, golden fire spreading through its chest. Its growl turned into a snarl of desperation. It wasn't just fighting Omar anymore. It was fighting the very pyramid, the very will of mankind that refused to be erased. Omar planted his feet, raised the spear, and screamed with every shred of his soul. This desert is ours. He hurled the weapon. The golden spear flew like lightning, piercing through the titan's chest. It erupted from its back in an explosion of fire, splitting the night apart. The titan howled, collapsing onto the dunes, its massive body shaking the world as it fell. For a moment, silence. Then, its chest still moved. It wasn't finished. The wolf titan's corpse shook. Its body, massive as a mountain, should have been still. But the sand quaked beneath it, and the golden wound in its chest pulsed. A deep, monstrous thrum echoed like a war drum. The titan's heart was still beating. The soldiers froze, victory dying in their throats. One whispered, "It's impossible." Another began crying, clutching his rifle as if it could save him. They had seen tanks shatter, aircraft fall, men vanish. And now, even death refused to take this beast. Omar knew it too. He stood bleeding, barely upright, the spear trembling in his hand. His body screamed to collapse. But his eyes never left the monster. "Not yet," he muttered through bloodied lips. "It's not dead until I end it." The wolf titan's chest split apart. Its ribs cracked outward, glowing with molten fire. From within, a core pulsed, black and red, surrounded by golden cracks, where Omar's strike had landed. It wasn't a heart like a living creature's. It was something worse. A forge of hatred. A furnace that refused to extinguish. The titan roared again, but this time the sound was not of flesh. It was the roar of its core, shaking the air, ripping through the dunes like a storm. The soldiers clamped their hands over their ears, some falling to the ground in agony. The pyramid's beam wavered for the first time, flickering like a candle in the wind. If the titan's core survived, the world would burn. Omar staggered forward. Every step was pain. Every breath was a knife in his lungs. His vision blurred, his knees buckled, but he forced his body onward. He pointed the spear at the monster's chest, voice cracking but unshakable. "You don't belong here." The titan snarled, its body rising again, claws digging into the sand. Its massive form was broken, half-charred, bleeding fire. But it still fought. It still refused to fall. The two stood in silence, man and monster, locked in a final standoff. Then they moved. The titan lunged, jaws wide, its breath hot with fire and blood. Omar sprinted forward, spear blazing, golden flames wrapping his broken body. The soldiers watched in silence, their hearts in their throats. For them, this was no longer battle. It was sacrifice. The collision split the desert. Omar ducked beneath the titan's claw, rolling across the dunes, blood smearing the sand. He rose, dragging the spear upward in a single motion, tearing through the beast's ribs. Golden fire exploded, spraying shards of bone and black blood. The titan howled, but Omar was already moving, climbing its chest, using cracks in its flesh like ladders. Every muscle tore, but he climbed higher, closer to its core. The soldiers shouted his name. Their voices became a single storm behind him. "Omar! Omar! Omar!" The titan thrashed, clawing at itself, trying to rip the man from its body. But Omar was faster. He leapt into the cavity of its chest, spear raised, staring at the pulsing furnace of hate. For a moment, time froze. He saw his life in flashes, training in Cairo, his mother's face, the weight of every soldier who had died screaming against these monsters. And then he saw the future, the desert burning, humanity erased, unless he struck now. He clenched the spear with both hands. "This ends here." He drove it down. The spear pierced the titan's core. For an instant, silence. Then the world erupted. Golden fire consumed the beast from the inside. Its howl turned to a scream of pure rage, shaking the heavens, shattering dunes into storms. The pyramid's beam flared brighter than ever, merging with the spear, pouring its ancient power into Omar's strike. The titan's body convulsed, thrashing wildly. Its claws tore trenches through the desert. Its jaws snapped at the sky. But the fire spread too fast. Its ribs split. Its spine cracked. Its core shattered. And then it collapsed. The wolf titan fell onto the desert with a final, earth-shattering crash. Its body burned with golden light, crumbling into ash that scattered into the wind. The desert was silent again. Omar stumbled from the smoking remains, his body broken beyond repair. The soldiers rushed forward, catching him before he hit the sand. They surrounded him, tears in their eyes, chanting his name. Not as a man, not as just a soldier, but as something eternal. The pyramid's beam finally dimmed, its task complete. The hieroglyphs faded from the desert, leaving only silence and the dead night sky. Omar closed his eyes, the spear still clutched in his hands, glowing faintly. He had won. Humanity had won. But even in the silence, he knew this was only one battle. The howl that had called the desert would not be forgotten. Somewhere, across the sands, other Titans would hear it. The war was not over,